A tragic mid-air collision near Washington, D.C., involving a passenger plane and a U.S. Army helicopter has resulted in 67 presumed deaths. The crash occurred Wednesday night as the plane was approaching Reagan National Airport, causing both aircraft to fall into the Potomac River. By Thursday morning, recovery teams had retrieved 27 bodies from the plane and one from the helicopter, with the total number rising to over 40 by the afternoon. The American Airlines flight, coming from Wichita, Kansas, had 64 passengers on board, while 3 soldiers were aboard the helicopter. Sadly, no survivors were found. President Donald Trump addressed the nation, expressing deep sorrow for the tragic event, calling it a dark and excruciating night for the country. He confirmed the deaths of American Airlines pilots Jonathan Campos and Samuel Lilly, 2 flight attendants, and members of the U.S. figure skating community. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, reported that American Airlines Flight 53342, a Bombardier CRJ-700, collided with the Army helicopter while it was conducting a routine training mission. The crash occurred around 8:53 p.m., and witnesses described the plane sharply veering right before disappearing from sight. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, has begun investigating the crash, which officials have described as a rapid impact. Video footage captured a fiery explosion upon impact, and audio recordings showed air traffic controllers instructing the helicopter to pass behind the plane shortly before the collision. Rescue operations are ongoing in the Potomac's cold and murky waters, with only 1 flight data recorder recovered so far. The NTSB is working to determine the cause of the crash, with an initial report expected within 30 days. This marks the deadliest aviation disaster in the U.S. in over 2 decades, with victims from Virginia, Ohio, and Georgia, including former world champion members of the U.S. figure skating community. Concerns about the congestion in Reagan National Airport's airspace have been raised in the past, with reports of near misses between helicopters and planes. Lawmakers are calling for improved safety measures. American Airlines has set up a hotline for families seeking more information. Authorities continue their investigation, and recovery efforts are expected to last several days. President Trump, addressing the tragedy, expressed his views on the event, attributing the crash to weakened aviation standards. He emphasized the importance of high standards for air traffic controllers, mentioning his efforts to improve the system during his previous administration. Trump's remarks have raised questions, as he linked the tragedy to diversity initiatives within the federal government, suggesting that these policies could have compromised aviation safety. He issued a memorandum later in the day calling for a review of aviation policies, specifically revisiting diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. As the investigation into the collision continues, President Trump's statements reflect his approach to the situation, focusing on policy changes and the need for high standards in aviation.